Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Elder Scrolls 6 discussion series. Today, I've got to admit, we're going to discuss something I never thought I'd be talking about, let alone back up as lore-friendly, to, of course, the Elder Scrolls universe. But yes, today we will be discussing guns and or firearms in the Elder Scrolls 6. Can you believe I'm saying that sentence? And I will be honest with you now, I don't want guns in the Elder Scrolls 6. However, I cannot deny that with all the evidence I'm going to show you later on in the video, that yes, guns are in fact lore-friendly to the Elder Scrolls universe. And not only guns, but everything I show you in this video will open gateways to explosives, bombs, grenades, dynamite. But let's not get too crazy, let's just stick with guns for now. Now, not only will we be touching on whether or not they are lore-friendly, but also if a gun/guns are implemented into the Elder Scrolls 6, how should it be done? And whether or not a gun is even a relevant addition to the already familiar weapons of the Elder Scrolls. I'd like to give a quick shout out to a good friend of mine, Zarek Zarakaron. You should definitely check him out. He helped me out a bit with this video and I appreciate his help greatly. He's also a master of the Elder Scrolls lore, so you should definitely check him out. The link to his channel can be found in the description. And in case you are wondering, yes, of course I am using a modification for the background footage of this video. It's just a mod that adds a gun to Skyrim. Seemed rather appropriate for a video of this topic, and I will leave a link to that mod in the description, so if you want to check it out, you can do just that. And while you're at it, be sure to hit up my social medias. Links to them can be found in the description, along with links to the other Elder Scrolls 6 discussion videos I've already done, which you should definitely check out after this video, as I go headfirst and dive deep into all kinds of interesting topics regarding the Elder Scrolls 6. And now onto the guns. It's what we've all come here for. Firstly, let's talk about whether or not guns would be lore-friendly to the Elder Scrolls universe, which I do believe they actually are, and don't worry, I am going to back that claim up with a lot of evidence. Again, this isn't something I thought I'd be talking about. Guns in the Elder Scrolls, it sounds silly, it sounds like something an 8-year-old would come up with as being a really cool idea. Dude, what if there was guns in Skyrim? Yeah! Well, I've taken that thought and gone, what if there were guns in Skyrim? Is that lore-friendly? Yes. As I have scoured all manner of Elder Scrolls games and read half of the damned Imperial library searching for evidence of anything remotely gun-related existing in the Elder Scrolls universe. Or, at the very least, if the components to build a gun already exist in the Elder Scrolls universe. And let me tell you, yes they do. Not only that, but they may have already been built in one way or another. We'll get to that soon. Now, to make a gun, or anything really, we need three things. We need the materials, the technology, and the idea. We need the materials, which are the building blocks. We need the technology to then use those materials as required to produce a new product. And we need the idea to put the materials and the technology together to create that new product. So, do we have the materials? Well, any casual Elder Scrolls player would know that yes, the Elder Scrolls universe does contain wood and metal. So we do have the materials. Do we have the technology? It's a bit of a tricky one, but I would say most definitely the Elder Scrolls universe is an oddly technologically advanced universe, especially for one of fantasy. Just as an example, the Dwemer have built machines beyond what humans can do right now on Earth in real life. And despite the Dwemer having vanished thousands of years ago, modern day civilizations within the Elder Scrolls universe have reverse engineered Dwemer technology and used it to create things far more complex than a gun, like a fully functioning Dwemer airship as an example. And if that's not good enough for you, that's fair enough, but I do believe that something very, very similar to a gun has already been built and used in the Elder Scrolls universe. Again, I'll go through the evidence in a couple of minutes here. So back to the technology, yes, technologically the civilizations within the Elder Scrolls are definitely at a point, or even beyond a point, where it would make sense that they could build a gun. Now, there is, of course, the most important part of a gun, which I suppose kind of combines materials and technology, which is, of course, the explosive, gunpowder, or something to act in the same way as gunpowder. Something that could create a small explosion to theoretically propel a projectile out of a metal tube or barrel, resulting in a dangerous and deadly missile flying through the air at high speeds. Simplified, of course, a gun. Is there something in the Elder Scrolls universe that can create a small explosion to shoot the bullet out of the gun? Again, Yes, and I've got evidence to back that up. So does something like gunpowder exist in the Elder Scrolls? Well, it wasn't easy, let me tell you that. But I found several examples of explosive compounds that exist in the Elder Scrolls. Not only explosives, but devices that utilize those explosives in a similar manner to a gun. So now I'm going to show you all of the evidence and findings that I, found, as you do with findings. And shortly after, you'll come to the same conclusion I did. Yes, the Elder Scrolls universe most certainly contains all of the necessary components to build a gun. Therefore, a gun would be a lore-friendly creation to exist in the Elder Scrolls universe. Just a quick little explanation / disclaimer here, 3 out of these 9 sources are out of game sources, meaning materials, information, and lore that is revealed within an external material, so something that wasn't in a game. For example, a real-life book set in the Elder Scrolls. So do take those examples with a grain of salt, as they are not in-game, therefore they are not canonized, but keep in mind the people who write these external materials and sources are the exact same people who write the lore that goes into the games. But don't worry, 6 out of the 9 things I'm going to show you are found in Elder Scrolls games, therefore are canonized. And while it might seem a bit tedious showing you all of these in-game things, it is one hell of a claim to make, guns being lore-friendly to the Elder Scrolls games, so I'm going to back up this as much as I can. Let's start off with a strong one, shall we? In the Elder Scrolls Adventure Redguard, there is a goblin cave that can be entered and explored. In this cave, there are barrels. These barrels have wicks and they can be lit with your torch. And guess what happens then? The barrels go boom. No magic here, just an explosive device, primitive, but all that is needed to create a similar effect as gunpowder. These barrels are said to contain something called black powder or blasting sand. Those 2 names I just mentioned, I could not prove those names exist within the Elder Scrolls games, but the barrels and their contents were referred to as such on forums. But regardless of whatever the explosive is called, we can at least agree that this is in fact an explosive compound or substance seen right here in the official Elder Scrolls universe. Secondly, in the Elder Scrolls Online, there is a volatile substance called kindlepitch to be used to create fire when you don't have flint or steel. That's one hell of a volatile substance. Maybe not mimicking the effects of gunpowder, but a vicious science-based non-magic explosive. Yes, indeed. Ah yes, probably one most people will be familiar with, Skyrim, Dawnguard expansion. Would you believe it, but yes, there is in fact evidence of explosive devices in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Specifically in the Dawnguard expansion, you can uncover ancient Dwemer schematics for crafting explosive Dwemer crossbow bolts. These aren't magic. At no point are they enchanted, at no point does a wizard go near them, at no point does a soul gem go near them. These exploding bolts are created simply at a blacksmithing forge, and all that goes into creating them is fire salts and already existing Dwemer crossbow bolts. Again, no magic, just a crossbow bolt and fire salts. And the result is an exploding crossbow bolt. So, instead of exploding on impact, what if the explosion happened within the device, which then fired the projectile at a much more devastating speed? Of course, this would be a gun. Now you could argue that fire salts are a magical element, which I did look into and I can't find any evidence for that, but even if that were the case, fine, who cares if it's magic or not? If it can create the same result as gunpowder and it's in the Elder Scrolls universe, so be it, magic or not. If it can act like gunpowder and create an explosion, well, we've got the building blocks for a gun. Next, in the Elder Scrolls Online, there is a journal page named Non-Standard Techniques, written by Gabrielle Bennell. In the very last sentence, as we can see, my next missive will discuss uses for local alchemy goods in creating unique and explosive concoctions. Now, unfortunately, there is never another page to this, but regardless, she has been creating, and is willing to talk about, explosive concoctions. Alchemical based, I might add, not magic based, alchemy, mixing of elements and chemicals to create an explosive concoction. So again, another reference to an explosive, which is exactly what we're looking for. Here is the icing on the cake though. In Morrowind's Tribunal expansion, when you descend into the forgotten Dwemer city of Balm's Armshend, we will not only encounter but have to use a Dwemer satchel pack. Forget gunpowder. This thing is like C4. It's a satchel of unknown substance that you have to use to blow up a big pile of rocks to gain access through the rest of the dungeon. A backpack full of explosives that, yes, the Dwemer both invented and used. Is explosive technology present in the Elder Scrolls? Yes it is. And in case you're not too familiar with the Elder Scrolls universe, the Dwemer primarily used science and technology to make their inventions, and Dwemer society as a whole basically had the view that magic was unimportant and pointless. So if you're wondering if this Dwemer satchel pack is a magic explosion, no, it's not. It's science-based. And back to my point earlier, even if it was magic-based, who cares? It has the same effect as gunpowder. Ah yes, now let's cover the out-of-game sources and then finally the cherry on top of all of this, which is an in-game reference and purely canonized proof. So again, the out-of-game references. Because they're not in the game, they cannot be taken entirely seriously, but they're also written by the same people that actually make the games. So firstly, there was a book released called Kyne's Challenge, which was officially released and sold on Bethesda's web store. And I actually own a copy of it. As we can see here, it's a beautiful book filled with lovely artworks and presented in actually an awesome art style. But to the point, on page 159, as we can see here, what Ingjard hadn't shared with us was the additional gift she had been saving for this special occasion, a small charge of explosive powder, squirreled away since Windhelm. A small charge of explosive powder. That sounds like gunpowder to me. And keep in mind, this officially released book makes reference to an explosive powder. Now onto the other two. In a similar fashion, these next two sources were unreleased/unfinished scripts for the Elder Scrolls Adventure Redguard, written by Michael Kirkbride, who, if you don't know, is probably the guy that came up with whatever crazy Elder Scrolls lore you love. Anyway, again, these were unfinished scripts from the Elder Scrolls Adventure Redguard. They were never put into the final game. The first one, Lord Vivek's sword meeting with Sirris the Restless. This sentence here, the locals have never seen fireworks. And we stole plenty from Co. Fireworks. What's in fireworks? Maybe gunpowder? Which at this point, we already know that everything that needs to go into a firework already exists in the Elder Scrolls universe. And everything that goes into a firework is exactly what we need to make a gun, explosives. Secondly, we have Tiber Septim's sword meeting with Sirris the Restless, where, get this, 3 separate times cannons are referenced. Priming the cannon, our sunbeam is already up. Who knows what that is, but the important part is someone was priming a cannon. A cannon. A huge metal tube that shoots cannonballs. And to do so, it needs gunpowder, or something that does exactly the same thing. In the same piece of text, see our chaser's cannon all moves out and forward. Again, another cannon is referenced. And finally, sunbeam charge en route to main engine move to intercept the remains of our prey. They are glassed for cannon fire. What was that eruption report? A very strange sentence, but nonetheless, it references, again, cannon fire. Now again, unfortunately, those 2 scripts were never implemented into the final version of the Elder Scrolls Adventure Redguard, so they cannot be confirmed as lore. However, in that exact same game, the Elder Scrolls Adventure Redguard, during this sequence which I'm about to show you, keep an ear out because you can hear cannons being fired in the background, as the Empire's navy is destroyed by pirates. How are they destroying the navy? Maybe with cannons that you can hear being fired in the background.
The assault ship is ready, Lieutenant. The men are aboard. They'll never see us coming.
I'll inform Lord Rickton.
What was that?
He's here.
They're attacking the harbor.
Who is?
A mob of them, Governor. We were caught off our...
The Redguard's behind this. I know he is. He's here. He must have found some new friends. Get that Redguard. Take their leader and they'll fall to pieces. The dirigible is ready. Shall we begin the assault on the Restless League's hideout?
Forget about League Dram. We must evacuate.
But
Who do you think is attacking the harbor, man? It's the Restless League. They're blowing up our ships. That Redguard, the one you were supposed to kill a long time ago, he succeeded in sparking the rebellion we were sent here to repress.
we don't.
Enough! We'll take the dirigible and make for the mainland. Stros Mackay is expendable. The Redguards may have their day here, but I will return at the head of a fleet and the Emperor's legions.
Now, while not 100% cold hard confirmation of cannons, a group of pirates called the Restless League attacked the Imperial Navy, and as we hear explosions in the background, Emil Richten says they're blowing up our ships. With what? Cannons, maybe? Those pirates sure as hell don't use any magic. They're using something else to blow up the Imperial Navy. And don't forget, this is the same game where we saw the explosive barrels that I showed earlier. It could be those, they could be using explosive barrels to blow up the ships, or they could use the same powder to fire cannons. So while it's not 100% confirmation of cannons, it's like 99.9% confirmation of cannons. And if you're looking for that extra 0.1% proof, well, I've got it for you right here. Something that is confirmed, in the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, there is a lovely little book called Jokes. In this book, there is a joke, believe it or not. Why was the Sentinel army so useless during the War of Bethany? The cannons were too heavy, so all 3 garbage scows sunk. Wait, what? What was too heavy? The cannons were too heavy. Cannons have now been made canon. Sorry, that joke had to be made at some point. Cannons are confirmed as canon lore in the Elder Scrolls. Now you might think, but Camel, this is a joke book, we can't take it seriously. Well, to be honest, I don't care if you take the joke seriously, but the joke references a canon, and the in-game author can only make references to things that do exist within the Elder Scrolls games. So yes, we should take that seriously. How could the author reference something that does not exist? Well, he couldn't. The word canon also isn't just randomly used, it's used specifically in a joke about ships, exactly where we'd expect to find a cannon. Now, what is a cannon? A cannon is basically a gun that's too big for you to hold. So what if someone goes, we've got cannons, what if I had a cannon I could hold in my hand? Boom, you've suddenly got a gun in the Elder Scrolls universe. A personal gun, that is. Now, before we wrap this up, there is something interesting that we will touch on right now. A gun, or something similar to a gun in the Elder Scrolls universe, wouldn't need to mechanically function the same way a real-world gun does, even though the Elder Scrolls universe definitely already has the building blocks to create a gun that functions identically, mechanically, to a gun in real life. But it doesn't need to be that way. An example of this would be, say, the same way a wizard can shoot a fireball. Well, what if that wizard built something like a gun and used his fireball magic to propel a projectile from the metal tube instead of, say, something like gunpowder? This would be lore-friendly and work in the exact same way that a gun does. The wizard's power being harnessed or directed specifically into the tube to project the projectile a bullet, and that bullet would then fly with great power behind it. The same way a real-life gun works, but instead of gunpowder, magic is being used. This would be also 100% lore-friendly, and I can't think of any reason why this wouldn't work. However, if you're not into that, of course, with the evidence I just showed you, a gun could be built in the Elder Scrolls universe that mechanically functions in the exact same way a gun does in real life. So we have magical and mechanical evidence that a gun could be built and, in a sense, already has been built with cannons, in, of course, the Elder Scrolls. So at the end of all that, we can confirm that explosive powder, substances, compounds, whatever you want to call them, do exist within the Elder Scrolls universe. We can also confirm that cannons exist. So not only do we have the materials, technology, and items required to build a gun, but the idea of a gun has already been put into play with cannons. All we need now is someone to go, I want a cannon that I can carry on my person. A bit of inventor's genius and voila! You have yourselves one personalized, lore-friendly carryable gun in the Elder Scrolls 6. So guns are lore-friendly, yes, but here is the important part. Just because a gun would be lore-friendly, does that mean we would like to see them in the Elder Scrolls 6? Again, while I can't deny the evidence, I'm gonna say no. I personally would not like to see guns in the Elder Scrolls 6. If, for example, Todd Howard rang me right now and said it was up to me whether guns went into the Elder Scrolls 6 or not, I would say no, Todd. It doesn't just work, don't put it in. I feel like whenever a fantasy game that didn't originally have guns introduces guns, it just becomes a game about guns, which, of course, I don't want. And I'd imagine you don't want that either. I also don't think that guns would actually be needed in the Elder Scrolls universe. With magic and mages being able to shoot fireballs and such, a gun isn't that much of a revolutionary weapon. It changes the fighting game a bit, don't get me wrong, but anything a gun could do, magic can do and has done far stranger and more powerful things in the Elder Scrolls. So with that said, I am almost going against my original point. If a gun wouldn't make that much of a difference, then why not chuck it in for some weapon variety? Well, that is a valid argument you could make. Still, the idea of a gun in, say, Skyrim for example, it rubs me up the wrong way. It's like patting a dog forwards, it's just not right. So I don't think that guns are a necessary implementation into the Elder Scrolls 6. Now let's just say hypothetically, if they were going to put guns in, here is how I'd want it to go down. I'd only want one gun. What I mean by that is a little tucked away, nice, unique, and honestly not that effective gun that you can find. Just as an example here, I would want some kind of, say, psychopathic, crazed Breton wizard who has made himself insane by obsessing over Dwemer inventions and Dwemer technology, and he has studied their civilizations for his entire life. Combining the ideas that he's come up with and his interpretations of ancient Dwemer schematics, well, let's just say that he builds something crazy. Some kind of prototype, something that harnesses the power of a small explosive and shoots a projectile, potentially killing an enemy. This, of course, would be an Elder Scrolls gun. Again, I would want it to be unique, maybe have a limited amount of ammunition, make it so that it's not that effective. Maybe its effectiveness is randomized, given it's a first of its kind, it would work sometimes, it wouldn't work other times. If they did implement a gun, I would want it to be a little Easter eggy, unique weapon that fills the player's hearts with a sense of awesomeness and fun and a little like, oh dude, this is awesome, rather than fill the player's hand with the most powerful weapon in the Elder Scrolls ever. So with that said, that's how I'd want them to do it if they were going to do it, and even with that said, I really don't think it's a smart move putting guns into the Elder Scrolls 6. I am most certainly not interested in seeing every bandit and guard walking around with a rifle on their backs. The iron daggers of the Elder Scrolls 6, the flintlock pistols, no thank you. But hey, that's just me. And as always, I really need you to leave your thoughts on the subject down below. And also, if you do have any further evidence to back up explosives and/or guns, cannons, firearms, or anything of the sort in the Elder Scrolls games, of course, leave your comments below. Even more importantly though, be sure to leave your ideas, thoughts, and wishes for guns, explosive cannons, blah blah blah, everything we've spoken about, and anything of the sort in the Elder Scrolls 6 down below in the comments. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, we will have the rediscussion series in which your ideas and thoughts will be presented in a topic-specific video just like this. To make that happen, would you believe it, I need you to leave your comments with your ideas and thoughts down below, so be sure to do just that. And hopefully, at the end of it all, we can have some kind of meaningful impact on what actually goes into the Elder Scrolls 6. As we know, it's a long way out of development, so we do have a lot of time to make our voices heard and potentially change the outcome of the Elder Scrolls 6 for the better. So if you did enjoy this video, please remember to leave a like. It would be greatly appreciated. Be sure to share this video with your mates who might have their socks blown off learning that guns in the Elder Scrolls, well, it's completely lore friendly. Who would have thought? And if you did enjoy this video and you want to see more videos similar to this one, be sure to subscribe. It helps me know that you are interested in these kind of videos and in the long run will result in more of them. Down in the description you can find links to all of my other Elder Scrolls 6 discussion videos that you should definitely check out and have your say on. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, and if you'd like to support the channel in a more personal way, you can become a heroic patron on, of course, Patreon. Links can be found in the description once again. As I'm sure you know, all of my time and energy goes into making these videos I create for you to enjoy, so your support is most appreciated and welcomed in any and all forms. Feel free to check out the Elder Scrolls 6 playlist. Thanks for watching, thank you for supporting the channel, and I'll see you very shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon. With a boom, because we're all going to be carrying guns in the Elder Scrolls 6.